Hello, everyone. Welcome back to yet another political episode. So, we have to return to back talking about the riots and a bombshell new poll that exposes really what majority of Americans, or just Democrats, think about the Democratic Party. They are saying a majority of Democrats, they are, of course, giving a disapproval, a thumbs down over their approval in said Congress, and that's 21%. That is George Bush numbers. So it says, according to the poll conducted June 5th to the 8th, just 21% of all voters approved of the way Democrats in Congress were handling their jobs, with 7 in 10 disapprove it. I wonder why, because obviously when you go out, we have Maxine Waters trying to bang on the doors of deportation centers and saying, I'm a member of Congress, I demand entry. No, you just look like a little girl with a snotty attitude. She is entitled, and that's what everyone is treating her like, and she is absolutely entitled. She's an entitled, spoiled woman. You throw her back on the street where she belongs. She encourages riots and insurrections and insurgencies, and the last thing we're supposed to do is let you into the ICE deportation center. We don't trust you, woman. You've gone completely crazy. Who knows? You probably might release some prisoners because she loves the prisoners so much. So obviously Democrats have entered George Bush numbers, and it's not getting good for them. Obviously Democrats have chosen their side. They've chosen to be the bad guys, okay? They will pretend and lie to the American people and say that we're the bad guys, like deploying the National Guard to support and secure the safety of every American is so bad. It's just so bad. It's dictatorship. It's using your military against the people, yada, 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 yada. Well, here's the thing. The rule of law. Every single country, and United States no different. We've used our military against the people many times, guys. This is not new. 1992 riots, okay? Not to mention, we used to rally up the military. I think we used to shoot them. Not advocating and saying that's okay, but we've really humanized, become more aware of the brutality that can lead. Like, we have multiple different rebellions, like the Whiskey Rebellion and I'm getting the other rebellion. You have a Whiskey Rebellion of involving U.S. I have to literally look up the conflicts. But the Whiskey Rebellion is, of course, an example of there was a riot because, of course, we're not going to look it up, but there was a riot because we went and put limitations on whiskey in Massachusetts. So that Massachusetts went and sent the guard. I'm not sure how many people died because of that. But we can actually say Whiskey Rebellion. Oh, yes, and there was Shays Rebellion also. So you had multiple insurrections, and they were put down by military force. And Shays Rebellion was literally similar to this rebellion. Shays Rebellion was a rebellion basically led by this guy named Shay. Don't really know his first name. Daniel Shays. He didn't like the government. He just did not like the laws, and because he didn't like the laws, and he thought the laws were evil and bad, that he justified using violence and creating mobs to go after the government. This is very similar to Shays Rebellion. You have radical far-left lunatics running around. They're saying, oh, well, we're doing this for humanity. We're doing this for the immigrants. So therefore, we can use fire with fire and kill people and be brutality. They think two wrongs make a right, right? two wrongs make a right. Otherwise, there's justification to it. This is the communist logic that's all in their thick skulls. But yes, they're just deciding to be a part of this, and I don't think they mind being a part of this at all. But the thing is, they no longer get to talk about January 6th. I'm just not justifying January 6th in any way. I do think it was very weaponized by the Democrats. But I'm just going to say, hey, look, right-wingers, right-wing conservatives. You can't right-wing conservatives. They're seeing all these atrocities that the left is committing when they don't get their way, from BLM, pro-Palestine, Donald Trump riots, anti-Doge riots, ICE riots. This is just saying, hey, if the left's getting away with it, why can't we get away with it? And they learned in January 6th that, hey, look, it's actually not like that way. The government is very favored and biased in favor of the left, because then again, the left is, their argument is they care, they're for the people, right? The people. And they will go as far as saying that democracy is leftism. You need leftism, and if you don't have the left, there's no such thing as democracy. So there's no such thing as being too extremely far left. Being extremely far left is fine for democracy. But obviously, we've seen in multiple dictatorships, from Iraq, Libya, China, Cuba, Nicaragua, Chile, Venezuela, North Korea, along with multiple socialist dictatorships. Trying to think of some on the top of my head. Even India was socialist for a little bit. You have all these countries like Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia. All these countries. You saw how, were they so democratic? The answer was no. They weren't. And they became tyrannical. So obviously, they're more bought and sold of leftism than they actually are towards democracy. They could care less about democracy. They care about communism. So obviously, we can go on and talk about the riots and all that stuff. They are spreading as we anticipated. And here the left, the Democrats, the media, they're saying, oh, they're just small. They're just tiny. They're just in the corner right over. No, it's going into Chicago, and rightfully so. Governors are deploying their National Guards. So obviously, we got to talk about what the American people think about Democrats, because they obviously are not buying for the bull. They are selling the American people, because this is what we're getting here from them. They're saying, hey, you can't deploy the guard, Trump. You can't protect your people, Trump. Well, the American people, they don't care, okay? First off, the American people, they're not going to take out a book in the middle of the riot and say, is this constitutional? Let's see, can the president do this? Well, first off, they knew the president can, because, we've done this in 1992, Bill Clinton. And Bill Clinton, everyone was fine with it. And now, you have riots. People are going to care more about safety, especially people in Los Angeles, especially people in these suburbs around the country, in these inner cities. They care about safety. They're not going to take out a textbook and go through law. Let's see if this is law. No, the only biased NPC Democrats will care if it is constitutional. The answer is yes. I mean, it's legal. We aren't declaring martial law. And the fact that, if Gavin Newsom's not going to put public safety into account and make public safety a priority, then guess what? This goes to the federal government. The federal government has to take over. You just can't let killing and massacres and genocide even continue, because the state government doesn't want to get involved. At some point, the federal government has to get involved. And what we're seeing here is extremists supporting terrorist groups. And they are setting fires. They are threatening to crucify ICE agents with handguns and nail guns. They are doing horrible stuff. And at some point, we need to act now. And that's what the federal government has chosen to do. We've seen a poll that 60% of Americans support and justify President Trump's handling of the said National Guard being deployed in Los Angeles. So the narrative we are seeing from these left MSNBC, CNN that say, oh, this is disastrous. Trump's breaking rule of law. Trump being unprecedented. This is scary. Authoritarianism. No. The fact is, it doesn't make them look good because you're going after President Trump, who's trying to save lives from people that want to take lives. You would rather protect, justify the atrocities being committed in Los Angeles and Chicago now. You would rather justify those atrocities and give them some slack, throw a blanket over them and say, this doesn't exist, and go after President Trump and his decision to mobilize the National Guard. Because somehow, some way, this is so authoritarian and fascist-like. And I've already said, hey, if you're not going to do your job, someone's going to have to do it. And it's not like, what if Trump didn't mobilize the National Guard? It's damned if you do, damned if you don't. People would go off on Trump. Why aren't you protecting us? The media was like, Trump's not doing anything for the situation in Los Angeles. Well, I'm telling you, there's no pleasing the media. There's no pleasing the Democrats. And because Americans are suffering now under Democrat leadership, you have people in Los Angeles and Chicago, and people around the said country. They are, of course, they're enraged by what they're seeing right now. So ultimately, the Democrats, their approval ratings at 21%. It's not getting better. And what do you expect when you have someone like Chris Van Hollen, flying all the way to San Salvador to release not an alleged wife beater, an actual wife beater and human trafficker, and to bring him back to the United States because he didn't get his due process. He did get due process. What they mean by he didn't get his due process, they actually mean, this is what they mean. He didn't get a 6-month period or more to reappeal and reappeal and reappeal. Constant reappealing. That's what Chris Van Hollen and the Democrats want. Kilmar Obrego Garcia to have. But then again, at some point, you're saying, okay, this is a priority. If you're that bad of a threat, you got to go now. First off, yes, if you are an alleged illegal alien and you have a case, ability to prove cases to the court, yes, you could have 6 months. And we are giving those people 6 months. But when you don't have an argument, we know on paper you've been caught in the act of being an illegal alien. You're going to be deported. If you see someone get arrested, I have a better example. If you see someone murder someone in plain sight, are you going to let that person go? I'll go. It's okay. You probably did. You can have a 3-month period because who knows? Everyone should have the right to prove that you didn't kill Mr. Smith, even though we literally saw you with plain eyes kill Mr. Smith. It's okay. Go ahead. No, you take that man and you put him in cuffs and send him to jail. We saw you. And then in this case, there's overwhelming evidence against Kilmar Obrego Garcia about being not just an illegal alien, that's a fact, but a human trafficker, being a pedophile, taking kids, raping them, and multiple women as he brings them across the country. Yeah. I think he gets banned from the United States permanently. So obviously, this is good news. Well, I would say it's devastating to the fact that Democrats are doubling down in support of violent murderers. But we also have to talk about President Trump's approval rating. Fox News is a bad polling source. So they're saying Trump's approval slightly declined to 38%. Well, is Fox News right about that? Well, they're a bad polling source. I think everyone agrees with that, even the left, because they can't stand Fox News. Am I correct? Yeah. So, but you have good news when it comes to Trump's job approval in the recent poll from Rasmussen, and now that is also a conservative network. And by average, Trump's approval rating has dropped to 3%. But I say that's pretty good on paper. We're continuing to go off pretty steady. But the good news, in my view, is, you know what? Trump's approval rating is going back up in response to his in response to his I'm blanking out again. Handling towards the said riots. And obviously, Donald Trump, he's not the man with, he's not the guy with George Bush numbers here. It's Democrats with George Bush numbers. And if you guys were alive during George Bush, I was alive. I was a little boy, though, and I had zero interest and zero knowledge of politics. But it was not good for him. Everyone hated George Bush. And when you have George Bush numbers, that's not good. You can make an argument of whether Donald Trump's approval rating is actually at 38% or 46%. But we can all agree it's way better than Democrats. You would rather be Donald Trump right now than Democrats. And he is preferred over Democrats by double digits. Democrats, they're too Trump deranged to actually realize this. So this is what happens when you send two congressmen from Maryland, flying them all the way to San Salvador to release an alleged wife beater, human trafficker, and by fact an illegal alien. And when you have members of Congress advocating, like Maxine Waters, trying to bust down doors, trying to go up and rallying and sit and being with these rioters and these protesters, it doesn't make her look good. You have a House Minority Leader. He says he's threatening ICE agents for doing their job. He's threatening ICE agents for doing their job. And he's saying, we're going to find who you are. That sounds like a threat to me. And it's kind of ironic how this guy said this way before the riots even began. Couple days before the California Los Angeles riot began. And we know for a fact the far leftists will take Hakeem Jeffries' words and justify it. Well, the House Minority Leader says that we have to hold ICE accountable, so here we go. So this is what we know for a fact they are going to do. Now, if this was Donald Trump, then we would know for fact that by fact and by large that he would be called out as for encouraging and inciting an insurrection. But everyone's totally fine with Hakeem Jeffries threatening ICE agents, trying to expose their identities. So their families and their kids, their wives and their spouses will be murdered. This is horrible. Hakeem Jeffries, it's unfortunate why he won't stand with the law at this case. He should be speaking a lot more about the threats that these horrible people are making towards ICE agents instead of doubling down, going after the Trump administration and ICE for trying to enforce the law. It's kind of sad. You have these extreme Democrats, they're saying, oh, these ICE agents, they're wearing masks. Well, I would wear a mask too if they're threatening to, of course, take me and my family and hurt my family. I don't want to expose my identity because that puts my family at risk. It puts my life at risk. I don't want them to get my information. So it's justified, absolutely. And when in the world did Democrats turn against masks? They love masks. They told us to staple it to our faces if it need to be. But obviously, this is what Democrats, they want to double down on this. And guess what? It results to 21% approving. I can't, of course, I can't explain why. And we know why. So, Democrats, you guys are 6 months in, and you guys are still dropping in the polls. I mean, you guys are so bad that you got rid of DNC chairman David Hogg, and rightfully so, David Hogg. And the fact that this low testosterone male even got elected is hilarious. But you guys got rid of him, basically annulling the whole election you guys had, where you used fake pronouns and created silly little genders. Instead of using the male, female, you guys did non-binary and others, yada 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 yada. And you guys end up with this leader, and they elected him because they thought this would be a better narrative for them. He was a school shooting survivor from Parkland in Florida, but of course being a survivor, and I justify it. This makes him very makes radicalized against people taking away their guns, and obviously this leads to a lot of discontent. This guy says that you don't have a right to a gun. Yes, you do, Mr. Hogg. Yes, we do, Mr. Hogg. It says it in the Second Amendment, and Mr. Hogg thinks it's good, and that thinks we should void that all. We should get rid of it. So obviously, we're not watching this, but obviously, when it comes to the said David Hogg being ousted, but also Malcolm Kenyatta, which is totally fine with me, but it completely exposes here. Yep, Democrats, they don't like election results too. They annul the election results. Because they didn't like it. So obviously, taking a look at, they say it's sexist, right? Even though, yeah, David Hogg, he's so far left. He wanted to primary Democrats that weren't far left enough, like establishment Democrats like Chuck Schumer. Probably switch him out with AOC. He turned against the establishment, and as a result, the establishment booted him out, and they used sexism is an excuse. They also booted Malcolm Kenyatta, who is absolutely not happy with David Hogg. But absolute. So yeah, they're going to have a new election, and I'm going to say right now, it's not going to be good for them because they're going to double down, because this time they're well committed to find a woman this time. And when it comes to electing new leadership, they're so committed to try to find a woman. And I'm just saying, no, you got to find a leader that's actually going to lead. You guys are so committed to actually finding a leader, trying to virtue signal, try to get these people, different ethnicities into the party, and it's not working. And it's not. Why should I go and join your party? Because you appeal to a group that I'm a part of. That's just so silly. They're supposed to, they believe that representation is the key, and it's not. So looking at the recent news with David Hogg, and he's still doubling down. I'm not running for re-election. I'm going to help the party continue. In some ways, it's kind of bad that David Hogg got kicked out, because we would love to have Josh Shapiro primaried out, which means that Pennsylvania governor's mansion will likely go Republican in 2026. We would love that, but David Hogg's too stupid and naive to realize that, and this is what they get. Democrats, they knew this, they threw him out, and now, of course, the far left is angry. But yeah, there's really no surprise that Democrats are at 21% approval. They can go ahead and tout Trump's approval as many as they want. But hey, look, if you're going to call, like, let's see, I thought I saw something like Brandon Johnson going off and saying the word terrorism, towards ICE raids, even though the obvious terrorists are the people in Los Angeles right now throwing a hissy fit, lighting trucks on fire and threatening to kill ICE agents. They're obviously the terrorists, and it's kind of this obviously coming from a mayor with 8% approval rating. His comment and his statement's not going to stick well to the average American. But anyway, what do you guys think in regards to the said video? Let me know down below. And as always, I'll see you all in the next political episode.